Right, recording. Hey everybody, it's Dee. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. This is the weekly Catalyst Astrology report, and it is the first quarter square of the sun and the moon. It is May 29th, 2020. You can tell I'm really struggling to pull myself back to any kind of Gregorian calendar, but I do know for sure where the moon is and its relationship to everything else. So welcome to this weekly astrology report. We're talking about the first quarter square of the sun and moon and the week following, which will be the second quarter of our lunar cycle that began on the 22nd of May with a new moon in Gemini. And so the first quarter square is the time where it's a conscious a crisis in action. It is the first real challenge to the intentions that we set around the new moon. And squares are by far one of the more challenging aspects as far as I can tell, because there's not a real good way to resolve that energy. Even in oppositions, there is a way to find the balance point between these two opposing forces that may be working against each other or trying to pull each other over. And so even with an opposition, there is a way to interact with the geometry to get the most out of it. But squares are they're hard angles, 90 degrees, right? This is the 90-degree angle with perpendicular planes here, that when they finally do connect, it's not in opposition, but they certainly don't support each other. And in fact, they can be thrown all over the place. It's just like a car accident, one person gets broadsided and everything spins out of control. So we can't really do much about a square, and they happen twice a month, every month between the sun and the moon, and it's our learning curve, right? Our time emotionally to learn something new in this new lunar cycle, because every month we go around with the moon and the internal landscape, the waters of our emotions and our feelings and our intuition have an opportunity to learn. We have an opportunity to learn as our emotions oscillate and have a rhythmic pattern, just like the tides do. But every month there's a different piece of the puzzle that comes together that we get to integrate and learn from. And squares are especially important, and especially with the lunar cycle. So a crisis in action. What are we going to do? So it's our first real crisis. So the first real square that the sun and the moon have. And the sun is in Gemini, and the moon right now is in Virgo. So we're going to talk about what this means, the other transits that are happening today, because it is still Friday, and the first quarter square is exact at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about the moon's progression and the general themes and some of the big transits that are going to lead up to the full moon, which is going to be a lunar eclipse. And the moon will be in 16 degrees Sagittarius, and the sun will be at 16 degrees at Gemini. And the Gemini energy, where the sun is really, this is where our attention is, and this is where all the focus is the center of attention, is the sun, is the center of our solar system. And Gemini is just about the duality. It's about the opposition. It is about the twins. It is about the yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine. There's this and that. That's the Gemini, and it's mutable air, right? It's in the realm of the mind, ideas, communication, and we are just discovering. That is early Gemini. The first half of Gemini is discovery, and so we are discovering quite a bit right now, and that's certainly not going away, and that's something that we're going to continue. And that where the new moon was in Gemini, early Gemini. Are we going to continue to discover we're going to continue to discover and crystallize these ideas into a form that benefits everybody in the end? Or are we going to allow ourselves to be rigidly structured and formalized early on just to have a sense of, a sense of stability, which is really false in Gemini, because it's just endless ideas. And we are discovering a lot that's certainly can't be argued right now, as far as I can tell. So it's going to be, the moon in Virgo. Let's just start looking at the chart, because it's going to make a lot more sense when we do this. Okay, so here we are right now. You can see even how everything is kind of stretched over to where the moon is. This is really cool. It really shows me that a lot of where we could be focusing right now. The moon, our moon, represents our internal lives. So each of us are having a personal experience with this moon in Virgo. Whereas Virgo is about purity, it's about discipline, it's about being organized, it is about details. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and so it is also mutable earth, so changeable earth, and it's using the power of the mind and the process of analysis to put things where they are the most efficient for personal mastery. Because Virgo represents the sixth house, and if we were to look here, this is kind of generically set up as a chart. It's for right now, but the house system is in its neutral, I guess, or traditional position. So you have Aries in the first house. This whole bottom of the chart is about the process of individual development, the you as a person, as a personality developing, and it's individualization, whereas this part of the chart is collectivization. And then you divide the chart again into then quarters, and then you have 4 different acts. And the first act from Aries to Cancer is what is it? That's a good question. Differentiation. This is where we're learning who we are in relation to other, but who we are specifically. The second act, which is where the moon has been, right, is about stabilization, right? So we are in this process emotionally where we're stabilizing ourselves, and we've come into Virgo, and it's now time to organize ourselves emotionally. It's time to purify ourselves of all the shit we don't need intuitively, emotionally, in terms of the realm of our feelings, the inner world. We want to organize it, and we want to make sure that everything is exactly where it needs to be, and it's clean and it's purified. And we do this in order to purify ourselves, in order to show up for this group integration aspect that the moon will then, when she moves into Libra, Scorpio, and then right here, halfway between Sagittarius, is where the full moon lunar eclipse will be. So this is the area of the moon we're going to be working with this week. So right now, she's in Virgo. So she squares over to the sun in Gemini. We have Venus retrograde in Gemini. We have the nodes now in Gemini and Sagittarius, and they move backwards through the chart. And so they will be in this area for the next 17, 18 months. And these represent where we are karmically headed. The North Node and then the South Node is our karmic past, our past lives, and we're talking collectively. So where these aspects are in your chart will affect what areas of your life and what major, if they're impacting any planets or points in your chart, then it could really point to aspects you want to pay attention to. So we have this Gemini, and so when the moon comes and squares the sun, our crisis in action. So here, Gemini, it is an airplane taking a nosedive. So the plane has been up. We've been discovering so much, especially if we're taking this perspective of like an airplane, just kind of like, much wider. We're willing to go into the air, into the realm of the mind, and then we're feeling really confident, and we're going to take a nosedive. And there's a risk involved here, and it's more of just, to a certain extent, definitely calculated risks, but it's more about there's a moment where we start challenging ourselves in some ways, and there's no going back from this situation. When you take the nosedive, you have to commit fully, and this is where the sun is, and it's, the sun is going to come and meet Venus at the end of the week, really close to the lunar eclipse, and so we're going to keep dealing with this. And what's more important is where the moon squares the sun, because in Virgo, we're really characterizing who we are, like, fully, and then eventually educating ourselves on how to be that person. So in early Virgo, we're still kind of in this characterization phase, and it's about pure, and think about Virgo as the opposite of Pisces, where there's no boundaries or form or anything. And so Virgo, the opposite of Pisces, there is definitely form and there are definitely boundaries, but they're shiftable, they're changeable, they're mutable. It is kind of like internalized alchemy, right? With Virgo, this is the hermit, right? This is the wizard, the sorcerer. is able to do the earth magic is in Virgo, and we're doing it with ourselves. We're like alchemizing internally right now. And so the square is just that moment we have to lean into and feel really uncomfortable to understand, to learn something from that tension. And the tension where the moon is being able to transcend the duality while being immersed in it. That is some real mastery, right? And the when we the challenge is being able to stay in that place emotionally, while at the same time experiencing the nosedive with the sun in Gemini at the same degree. That's just like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm success or failure. You commit to this process of almost challenging nature in some ways. And there's value in both of these positions, and the reason that they're squaring each other is because Gemini exists as the duality, and Virgo is about transcending the duality in real time, like not even participating it, like being part of it, but also not being in it, being in the world, but not of it, which is a very Christ thing, right? Which is a Pisces, part of the Pisces archetype. But Virgo brings it into real form, again, the earth magic. And so we're going to have this moment of just, it's going to be a conflict, an inner conflict with wanting to be able to transcend the duality, and also just like take a chance in our minds and with our ideas, with what we've discovered, like bring them back down to earth. And that requires being of the duality in some ways, because if there is a up, there is a down, and there's distinctly a down when we are taking a nosedive in an airplane. And so it's just something, is the challenge there is going to be between these two aspects. And so as the moon then keeps moving through, and we'll even go right to, let's see here, there we go. This will be the actual first quarter square. And beyond that, at the same time, like just before it actually, let's go back a little bit. Yeah, a little bit, an hour right before it, not only is the moon going to trine Uranus, but is also going to quincunx Chiron. So Uranus is the awakening, Chiron is the wounded healer, is in Aries, the inner child, and Uranus is in Taurus, which is the bull, but more so as that is about the stability of Earth and our physical lives in general. And clearly Uranus has not been, holding back really in terms of being completely disruptive in those realms. But the moon, in our emotional inward drive to really get ourselves organized and to analyze, to be very analytical about how we feel about the intuitive landscape. And when it comes to, and this is really going to be supporting and supported by Uranus and Taurus, which is really about being able to find and celebrate and find happiness even in the darkest of times, because this is how we're getting, this is the awakening right now. Uranus especially, just track Uranus and you'll get, especially the Sabian symbol that it's associated with, you'll get a good idea of maybe where to focus some energy, right? And so the moon is going to be trining Uranus, moon in Virgo trining Uranus, but also quincunx, right? This is the square peg in the round hole. It requires an adjustment. There's no geometric thing that makes sense with it's 150-degree angle. So where's the moon? Right here. Where's Chiron? Here you go, in Aries. It's like it's not quite across from it. It doesn't make any sense. And so that in itself will not make sense either, because with Chiron and Aries, we still are really struggling with keeping the focus on a singular point, a 0 point, a holistic focus on like the big picture, because we want to keep separating ourselves into victims and saviors, and our and wounds and people we have to heal. And if we can keep our attention focused on the big picture, we can transcend that too, which is where the moon really wants us to go, right? And we're getting this chance. Everybody's getting a chance right now, personally, before the full moon. Oh my God, before the eclipses, everybody's getting an opportunity to personally go on this journey, like emotionally and personally, through Virgo and into Libra, Scorpio, and Sag, where we are start discover the collectivization and the group integration, and specifically with Scorpio, we're going to have a dark moon in Scorpio and the first half of Sag, but a lot of Scorpio, it's going to be very dark. And I feel like for the first time in a while, like a or a full moon, sorry, God, it's going to be very bright. It'll be eclipsed as it's full because the moon will be on her own south node at that point. But up until then, the moon's going to be very bright, and we're going to get a lot of illumination from Scorpio. Communion and faith are big parts of the Scorpio archetype, because we are going into the resources that are created by being together. And this is where you also learn about power and abuse and things like that, because they come from trust and a vulnerability that comes along with being in partnership and contracts with people. That's the Libras, the relationship. When you get into Scorpio, you get into the deeper underbelly of what that all means. And so and we already had the full moon in Scorpio last month, right? That was opposite the new moon. And so that was a big whopper. That was a huge, huge one. So we're going to go back over a lot of that territory again. And I'll talk about that when we get to that part in the week. But there's going to be a lot. We're going to learn a lot here, and I think it's going to be really healing personally, and I'll explain why as we go through. So here we are. We got the moon that's going to trine Uranus. What is that degree? Let's see here. 9 degrees of Virgo, because then right after that is when it squares the sun. So let me get my astrology Bible out here. Oh, that's right. An expressionist painter at work. The urge to express one's individualized sense of value regardless of tradition. Deep catharsis with emotionally charged and often tragic overtones. So this is where the moon is. I think that, yeah, we want to express ourselves, and our ability to find the joy and the happiness in the darkest of times, being directly connected to this awakening, is very much supporting us being able to express our own individualized sense of value. Quincunx, Chiron, and Aries, though, because there is, we're trying to find this like catharsis and this ability to and we're reacting against cultural standards and stereotype ways of interpreting things, which does not really fit very well with Chiron wanting us to continue this narrative of who's a victim and who's not, and who needs to be healed, and all the, and there's a little bit of martyrdom there too with Chiron, just in general. But in Aries, it's really about our self-worth. And we want to be able, the moon here is saying we want to be able to make that distinction. We want to express our own sense of worth, us. We want to do it and that's the expressionist painter. I want to express myself creatively, but I want to be doing it. I don't need my self-worth dictated by anything else, no other construct. That's over. Right. These are all happening right before. So we get this blast of this, and then the moon comes and says, okay, I'm going to square the sun now. And we're going to see if we can, really follow through with this expression. And I think we will. That's the thing. There's such a discipline with Virgo. And if you have strong Virgo, it feels like we need people. If you have strong Virgo, this is your time right now, I would say. To integrate that into what you're doing personally as well. So this is today, the first quarter square, and then we'll just kind of go through. I think we're really, by the time, oh boy, Tuesday into Wednesday, the 2nd and the 3rd is going to be I think, really challenging. So Saturday, we have the moon now in late Virgo is going to be, look, is going to be opposed to Mars in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. The veil's going to get ripped away emotionally, internally. We're going to really have to start dealing with that. And it's going to be in opposition to Mars and Pisces. That is, we're being initiated so much right now. It's amazing, in terms of our spiritual warriorship. And emotionally, yeah, that veil's going to get ripped away. And we have to find that balance point between that and like Mars that really just is like, pushing ahead, and taking up the courage and the mantle of like protecting, you know, protecting the community, protecting the vulnerable, being the spiritual warrior. And it's going to oppose Neptune as well in Pisces. There's really been just surrender. You have to surrender to the great white hope, whatever that is. You know what I mean? You have to surrender to the fact the ascension has already happened and it's now just playing itself out. And you have nothing to really go on except maybe this very basic, like deep intuitive feeling, and nothing else. You have to have trust at this point. And by the time we get here, we're going to want to start like training. We're going to want to start training to like, it's a girls basketball team, right? It's about all working together in order to exercise group activity, right? Working in an organic wholeness. And I feel like emotionally we're going to start wanting to, how does that actually work? Like we may have come to a point with the square, the day before, where we are wondering, okay, how do I transcend the duality? I see that I need to emotionally want to transcend the duality without getting immersed in it, but at the same time being in square to everything, all of our attention being placed upon this nosedive that is inherently saying there's an up and a down, because I'm changing direction in a very drastic way. But by the time now that we get to Neptune, this opposition Neptune, it's like, okay, so how do I do that? How do I do that within myself and start training, right? Is about like the training, the actual skill set that needs to be used in order to be cohesive, and act as like one whole organism, but with a group of people all together. And it's very much about the training mechanism. So we got to find the balance, because it's not all about that. We have to still keep focused on where, the trust and where we're headed. So also with that, the moon is also going to square, before this is going to square Venus retrograde. And this is, before this, there's going to be an eruption. You know what I mean? The moon's going to oppose Mars, then square Venus retrograde, then come back and oppose Neptune, and then she's going to trine Pluto retrograde. And I think that we're going to see that degree is a flag at half-mast. It is the public recognition of a lifetime dedicated to service, right? We're talking about Virgo. It's public recognition. It is a culture hero, and it's going to be completely enshrined. So we're going to have this real emotional experience. And Pluto retrograde in Capricorn it's just destroying the old structure, just destroying them. You know what I mean? Like it's just dissolving, and right in front of us. And we are going to realize how many people, and what we can do to be our own culture hero as well. Very much supported by what Pluto is just completely dissolving. Saturday is going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of challenge as we're emotionally getting ourselves organized. Because Pisces is all about everything dissolving into one mass, one field of consciousness, and there are no boundaries, and there's a lot of inspiration. And Pisces is also the realm of media and propaganda and psychosis and illusion, because it's just all of it all together. It is the Akashic field. It is compassion and forgiveness, because that's also all part of it. That's the light side of the spectrum of Pisces. But the opposition to that with Virgo is, mastering that within ourselves, and then that allows us to like fully participate in this whole group integration and capitalization process that is in fact our whole, the life cycle of a person in terms of a personality. Like, we come here to experience all of these things. Saturday, I feel like we're going to come to a realization of the culture heroes and the culture hero within us, and how much work and discipline it actually does take in order to be of service. And it's so supported by what's actually going, like what the matrix being inverted back to its upright position really is what's happening here. Yeah, I think it's actually really beautiful. We're gonna really come to understand ourselves really well by the end of this weekend. And then the moon, this is Saturday, Sunday, the moon moves into Libra, right? And then but before that is going to trine also Jupiter in retrograde, and is going to also, this is still in late Virgo, is also going to square the nodes. And this is when from here is when the moon goes into Libra. And then I feel like that the moon in Libra, we really want things to be balanced. We want them to be aesthetically balanced. And it's about justice and fairness. So Libra is the scales. And so when we master ourselves, we can, and we meet with another that has mastered themselves, or is on the path of mastering themselves, whatever that means to you. We are, if you show up in your fullness, then we can balance the scales, and everybody is where they need to be. And moon in Libra, there can be a lot of people pleasing with this placement in general. And so emotionally, we feel kind of compelled to find balance and to find, you know what I mean? To do what we can to keep balance within relationships, especially. And it is in the realm of the mind. So it's not necessarily based on truth. It's based on what looks balanced and what is just balanced in terms of a very simple way of looking at it, which is putting the harvest on the scale and making sure that it's balanced out for everybody. And this is what we're gonna, and we want this. We're gonna feel emotionally compelled by this. The moon is going to trine Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, and I wrote notes, and I made sure that I wrote down when it was important to read certain degrees, and that's what I'm gonna do, because 2 degrees Libra trine 2 degrees Aquarius, where Saturn is. Probably important. The transmutation of the fruits of past experiences into the seed realizations of the forever creative spirit. A repolarization of inner energies leading to a creative centralization of consciousness. Creative centralization. Transmutation of the fruits of past experiences. We have a real opportunity here when the moon gets into Libra to see how much of what's been happening with Saturn at 2 degrees Aquarius really showing us how to deal with the crises in our communities. And Saturn's been relentless. It's just like, I'm just going to sit on this button endlessly. In fact, I'm going to go back over this button and just sit on it so that you see exactly every single piece of material that has to go into dealing with a crisis that is as disruptive as a lightning storm. And so this transmutation of fruits of past experiences into the seed realization, right? This is in fact the harvest itself, because that is where the seed, you take the seed out of the fruit, right? And you collect it for the next cycle. And it's a magical act when it's a transmutation in no time. The transmutation is like to plant the seed and to go through the cycle again. But in this instance, we are talking about the idea of it, because with Libra is in the mind, the repolarization of inner energies leading to a creative centralization of consciousness. It's like you repolarize by separating the seed from the fruit, but at the same time, you're just basically created the seed reality of the next cycle through that polarization. Um, there feels to me that by the time we get to this point, especially, oh my God, and then the moon then is going to square Mercury in Cancer. And this is, I also need to read this because we are going to want to unite with kindred spirits, right? This is where the moon is in Libra again, squaring Mercury now in Cancer. It's the cat arguing with the mouse. So the mind is it's still kind of trying to justify what it's doing, which is a natural the cat chasing the mouse is like a natural expression, for instance. It's not something that you really need to rationally justify, but since we're still in early Cancer, the mind still wants to kind of like rationalize this relationship playing out, where there are two distinct parties, and one needs, one is going after the other, or there is in fact separation, because there's a boundary. And the mind is, this is where Mercury is. And so we're going to really emotionally, we're really just going to want to all come together. And it's going to provide a real challenge to Mercury, that is like, well, I still need to be able to justify why something very natural is happening that's happening. So, I mean, the challenges with the moon in Libra will on Sunday start to really mount, especially because there'll be a quincunx with Uranus and an opposition to Chiron as well. It's going to be kind of the same thing. It's just like we want to have things emotionally, we're still in the transfiguration stage of early Libra. The first half of Libra is transfiguring. It's not until you get to the other part is reconstruction. We've learned so much and we've mastered ourselves that when we come together with other, we're transfiguring based on that relationship, and then reconstructing. And then it's when we get into Scorpio that we get to have the emotional experience. Right now, this is all mental, which is interesting that it's still going to be squaring Mercury, which is the mind, but it's focused on something else now. It's still focusing on the emotional capability of and emotional boundaries of Cancer. And it's still kind of arguing with itself. And so by the end of Sunday, especially with especially with the opposition to Chiron and then the quincunx to Uranus, our emotional drive or emotional inclination to find this like balance point with Libra is going to start being really challenged. It's going to start out I think it's going to start out good, and especially with Saturn potentially, and it's going to become increasingly more challenging as Sunday goes on. When we go to Monday the 1st, the moon is also in later Libra, so now we're in the reconstruction phase of this archetype, and we're going to have it the moon trine the sun. This is going to be earlier. We can even do that actually. 11. Yeah, here we go. This works. So there's going to be a trine to the sun, and this is going to be a really important moment, because this is where emotionally, as a result of this reconstruction phase, we can start really emerging from the depths to the miners surfacing from the deep coal mine, and is entwined to the sun that really is just ready to let go of the ghosts of the past. I think that this is a really important moment right here that is worth paying attention to. This is Monday morning. This is where I think things are going to start really amping up again. Then the moon is going to quincunx over to Mars in Pisces. Is going to then come back and trine Venus retrograde. Really showing us that, there's a certain amount of objectivity here, because once this is the degree that the sun will be at for the lunar eclipse, which is basically about objectivity, because people are talking to each other and sharing knowledge. This is what this 14 degrees, because it's going backwards, so it's actually a little bit further back. But when the moon does trine Venus, this is the degree. It's a sharing of information. I think people are now going to go back in their relationships, and they're going to re-engage these conversations that may have been a little bit troubling, or maybe they were a lot easier before. Either way, there's going to be an exchange of information, and it's going to be very much about our personal relationships, and it's going to be about like our relationship to resources as well. But it's really going to be about our relationships, I think, because we're talking about Venus and we're talking about Gemini and the realm of ideas and communication with each other. And so the moon is also, it's circular paths. We've been here before. We're going to feel that, and and it's going to completely support how we engage people with knowledge and communication this time around. And then the moon is definitely going to quincunx over to, well, maybe not. Oh, there we go. Over to over to Neptune. So again, we want to go back to we want to go back to being with each other. That's the other thing too. We want to go back to being with each other and enjoying it, and having this like balance, and enjoying it, having it be balanced and aesthetically pleasing, and look balanced. It has to be balanced in our minds. We're really going to want that. And it's going to, I think that will not seem at first. I think we're going to be learning so much, and we're really going to be, riding some waves, let's put it that way. It feels turbulent, and it feels also calm at the same time. Like there's a lot to be learned from these situations. So we're going to really want to like gather with each other and be with each other and enjoy it, but not be totally, that's the thing, we don't want to be totally submersed in the experience. We just want the idea of it. And that's what we're gonna want, and they're gonna seem like they can't fit together, and we're really gonna have to make an adjustment at some point, which we will, because as we move through this, here's Tuesday the 2nd. This is where it's getting interesting, because before we move into Scorpio land here, I just want to show you maybe how the moon is going to square Jupiter, it's going to square Pluto retrograde, and then come by and then trine the nodes here. We're going to start seeing some things. We're going to start seeing some things that are really going to challenge us, especially with the squares to Pluto retrograde and Jupiter retrograde, because and it doesn't mean that we aren't ready for them. It doesn't mean that we aren't kind of even anticipating them, and it doesn't mean we can't look at them clearly. But I do feel like there's going to be some big challenges come Tuesday with this moon to this energy here, and then coming into Scorpio, and also squaring Saturn retrograde. The big thing about Tuesday as well, the thing is that even though the moon is going to be at 30 degrees Libra and it's going to be in trine to the North Node, this is really just goes back to a couple of days ago where we talked about on Facebook Live the daily medicine transmission about the snake skin, and it sheds when it sheds, and we're going to become very aware of that, and be very and almost trust that it's going to trust the other people around you, that they're going to wake up when they are ready and it's time for them to wake up. And then from there the moon goes into Scorpio, and this is where it gets really interesting. So we square Saturn in Aquarius. The moon is going to trine Mercury in Cancer. So we're in the state of communion right now. Early Scorpio is definitely communion, because it is about what is created from coming together, the resources that we have, the power that is created in between contracts and partnerships of any kind. And this is where power gets really unpacked. We're going to learn so much. Oh my gosh. And we have to, because if we don't, then we are going to, this whole full moon lunar eclipse will definitely knock us on our asses, I think. And they are not usually good omens, you know what I mean? But if we understand what's leading up to it and all the energies connected to it, we can actively surf those waves instead of like be pummeled by them. So the moon is going to trine Mercury in Cancer, getting more and more consolidated into an emotional fixed position, which is great for feeling emotionally secure. Not so awesome necessarily for Mercury, but I will say Mercury rules the second decan of Cancer. It's the Three of Cups in the tarot, which is abundance. So I think things will get even better as Mercury moves through Cancer. And so the moon in early Scorpio, trining Mercury in Cancer is like we're deeply going in now, and we have full reflection from the moon, so we can really even see just the reflection on the water. We don't even have to go that deep. We can just look, if the waters are still, we can look all the way down without having to sink down there. And Mercury is in Cancer is allowing our minds, at the very least, in our communication and the way that we talk to each other, the way that we think about ourselves and other things, that we can start finding some sort of allegiance emotionally to something and some boundary to protect us. And that way we can really we can allow ourselves to kind of sink into the Scorpio. The moon does not like to be in Scorpio. It's a hard position. But moon Scorpio people, we tend to know what this feels like, and this is territory we're familiar with. With that being said, the moon is going to oppose Uranus and quincunx Chiron, because the moon is going to be a dentist at work, which is not fun for anybody who, not even the dentist really, but it is getting into this, really getting into your head from a different, from inside your mouth. It's not an easy place to be, but a dentist at work does give you this idea of like really getting in there and like getting to the root of things. This is, Uranus just, that's the other thing, is it's saying like you can find happiness in all of the darkest of places. It's up to you and it's your choice. And this is how you awaken. And the moon is just like, I know, but I gotta like dig in here. And this is not happiness. This is dental work. So we gotta, again, find the balance in the middle. And then that's just quincunxing. Again, quincunx, the square peg in the round hole, because we can't maintain our like, wounded healer identity if we're, going in doing the dental work. The same thing. It's like if you're going to go in deep, you're going in even deeper, and you can't even sustain that Chiron wound at all. So we're going to learn a lot. I know I keep saying it, but we're going to learn a lot, because we have to, because by the time we get to, so here's the 3rd, we still got our moon in Scorpio, late Scorpio. Oh, I didn't even talk about one of the biggest things on the second. Oh my gosh, sorry to go back. Venus is going to square Mars. That was why. Oh my gosh, I almost missed this like huge thing. Venus is going to square Mars. So Venus again is in this realm of telepathy and passing of information, you know, back and forth. And Mars is, oh gosh, the same degree here. Uh, let's see. Let's go back because I think where it is yeah, I get you. Yeah, 15 is the telepathy. It is transcending physical limitation for communication. This is where Venus retrograde is, and it's going to be square to Mars in Pisces, which is about the, you know, almost like the cultural way that we like guard and we hide ourselves, we hide our true feelings. There's a cleverness um about Mars once we get to this point, you know what I mean? Because now Mars has been initiated into like some sort of secret order, and is really working for that, and has been tested. We're being tested right now, and there's gonna be, you know, there's gonna just be some fuckery. Let's put it that way. And the divine feminine is just like, I don't need anything. I communication is free, and I will talk to anybody I want, even if I have to do it through telepathy. And Mars in Pisces is like got this fox stole wrapped around and just being like, oh, you know, acting kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about, but really that fox is a symbol of cleverness. And when we're talking about Pisces, I mean, it's undercover now, you know, you acting like you don't know, but really you're like just kind of shrouded in using your intellect and your I don't know, just be mindful that, you know, what's getting pushed out. You know, we're talking about Mars here. What's getting pushed out, where the ambition and the fire and the courage, just be mindful where that is and what it's squaring, because again, you can't resolve a square. You just have to feel into it. And so there's going to be a lot of there's and who boy, relationships are really going to feel it, especially romantic and sexual relationships. It's really going to be a big wow. Oh my gosh, this is Tuesday. Yeah, and then the dental work on top of that. It's about to get really real, as if it's not already. That's the thing. And so we move on to Wednesday. We have now the moon in Scorpio, late Scorpio, and now Venus is going to conjunct the sun. So again, this is the it's not so much the um telepathy. And again, I was directing myself earlier to read this, and so I will. Let's see here. Bridging physical space and social distinctions. Two people communicate telepathically, the capacity to transcend the limitations of bodily existence. This is where the sun and Venus retrograde are conjunct on the 3rd. Okay. Um, this is when there's going to be a shift, and there's going to be an awakening moment. There's going to be people talking to each other. A time comes when the individual can still transcend the limiting boundaries of culture and ego, and efforts should then be made to enter a realm of consciousness, and from which the communication from mind to mind can take a more direct form, because the minds then operate within the one mind of humanity. Techniques, of transcendence. Wow. Not only is the sun just the center of our attention with that, it's going to be conjunct Venus retrograde, which is all about, again, what we love in our relationships. Wow. We are that, it just feels like an awakening moment, and like and a transcending of even things like the traditional ways. I mean, it's talking about telepathy, so it's even like about what the actual methods of communication. And so maybe there will be different platforms where people are talking. Maybe people are going to just start talking to each other directly, right? And we're not going to have to be like distance or isolated anymore, like on a collective level. That's what it feels like. And then from there, the moon is also going to trine Mars, but is going to trine Neptune. And the degree that Mars or that the moon will be when it trines Neptune is obeying his conscience. A soldier resists orders. Inner freedom. Wow. Yeah, that's going to be really, really cool. I think on Wednesday the 3rd, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be intense. That's all I can say. From there, on the 4th, what do we got here? We got the moon a couple hours before in sextile, well, we've learned a lot. Late Scorpio, you have seen some shit, right? You not only have seen it, you are using it to transmute, right? You are bringing it back to the surface at this point in the journey here. You have gone to the underworld and come back. This is what late Scorpio is. And so sextile, the ruler of Scorpio, what is this? Pluto. Seeing all the way through down, the illusion is going to be we're just going to see right through it. The veil is going to be pulled back and it's going to be incredible. Sextile here, sextile Pluto, sextile Jupiter as well. And then when it comes into Sagittarius is also going to sextile. So what is a sextile? It's a 60-degree angle. It is the 6 in numerology, in the tarot. It is about harmony with action. And this this moon in late Scorpio sextiling all of this, and into Sag sextiling all of this stuff, we've learned. So I mean, we've not even mastered, we've gained, investigated, and seen the man behind the curtain at this point, and we're bringing it back. And we've had faith in the ability to bring these revelations to the surface in order to actually understand what we're learning, as opposed to just taking in the knowledge. And everything that's being dissolved, everything that is being reworked, all of the structures, the entire inverted matrix over here, right, that is being that just doesn't have the energy anymore, is just going to what we discover with this moon before it goes into the eclipse is so powerfully going to make sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I think, that this matrix never gets inverted again, right? At least on this planet. And so then the moon moves into Sagittarius, and that is also, this is what's happening. And then the next day is the full moon lunar eclipse, and I'll talk a little bit about this, but there will definitely be much more content about it. This is going to be right here, 15 and 15. The other thing that's happening this day too is, if you look before the actual full moon, which is going to happen at noon, 12:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So right before this happens, Mercury is going to sextile Uranus and is going to square Chiron as well. And so this aspect of Mercury being in, the Cancer is the chariot in tarot. And so we're really reinforcing our minds in some ways in order to charge forward on our crusade here of allegiance and stabilization, and is going to be, again, we have that sextile with Uranus, with the awakening. Mercury and Uranus are very connected because they're both planets that rule air signs, but then also is squaring Chiron. Again, there's just so much challenge to this Chiron. And this degree here, where Mercury will meet both of them, is such about trust and naive exploration of going, of the emotional realms, because you feel safe and secure. And so mentally, we're going to start getting to this place where we're feeling more secure and emotionally safe enough to start exploring more and feeling confident about ourselves. And that doesn't help the Chiron thing either, especially in Aries, because we have to hate ourselves in order to keep this whole thing going. And then, but in the sextile to Uranus is yes, the awakening. In fact, you can support this even more by being, allowing your mind to feel safe enough to explore a little bit more emotionally. Then the moon, yeah, and the sun gonna have their full moon lunar eclipse, and also at the same time square Mars in Pisces. Oh my gosh, which is basically a simulated assault, right? Is an officer instructing the troops during a simulated assault, and it's really about it's like a dress rehearsal for the real thing. And then because you move into the last half of Pisces, which is the last half of the cycle, um, and the moon is going to, so it's going to oppose the sun and is also going to square, the eclipsed moon is going to square Mars in Pisces. Oh boy. I'm going to wait till we get a little closer to talk more specifically about the degrees, because this video has had enough information. But it's very significant, and it'll keep coming up as the week unfolds. So working with the moon right now, we are at a place where we are getting organized emotionally. We're going to get to a place where we really want to see a fair and balanced way of relating to each other as we are moving through this time. And once and then we get to go into the realm of Scorpio, where we get to go deeper into what that means. And I think that, like I said, we're going to learn a lot, and there's going to be a lot of tension with that Venus and Mars square, but then Venus conjunct the sun. That's going to be it's going to be very eye-opening, and I think it's also going to be it's really going to put the attention on talking to the people we love. Because that's really where the awakening is going to keep happening. It's not going to be through Twitter necessarily, or social media platforms or anything like this. It's just talking to the people we love, having legitimate conversations that are full love and full of respect, and being able to share information as opposed to oppose each other. I think we're in for an incredible week. So I hope you found this video helpful. All the information you need is in the description box below. You can follow Catalyst Energies on Facebook and Instagram. There is content that I think is useful every day on all of the platforms somewhere. And you can reach out if you have questions, or if you're interested in booking a reading. I'm not really taking any clients for a little while, but I'm going to start a list for a couple weeks in. So if you want to plan ahead for like maybe the solstice or something, that could be something you could reach out and we can get on the books. Right now it's actually still by donation. I'm not sure how much longer that'll last, but I hope you're doing well. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you on the live tomorrow if you're following me on Facebook, and we'll do our daily medicine reading. And yeah, next time I talk to you in this format, it'll be for the full moon lunar eclipse. All right, let's stop the share. I'll see you later.